Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast by Closers.io where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Samuel Konzum, and in each episode, we'll uncover the stories behind successful startups, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future expansion. Today, we're excited to have Tom Nodine, the CEO and founder of Human Life Expectancy, Inc. Tom will be sharing more about his founding story and giving us a glimpse into his plans for future growth. So let's jump right in. Tom, welcome to Founders Future.
Sam, pleased to be with you.
Happy to have you. Walk us back here. 6 years ago, you started this business. What specific problem inspired you to do so?
Sure. So I have spent the bulk of my career as an either senior executive or a consultant in the insurance industry. And in that light, have helped insurance companies really for decades to revolutionize their companies and operations, primarily through using new technologies. But then around 2016, I stumbled across an article from a man named Steve Horvath, who is a doctor at UCLA, who had discovered that through epigenetic analysis, you can more reliably predict how long somebody's going to live. And you can come up with something called their biological age. And having spent all the time that I had in insurance, it took me less than 30 seconds to think through, good God, this could have enormous implications for life insurance and for health insurance. And I started studying it and got a team together, and everything kind of pointed to, I think, the reality that we're just living in an astonishing time when epigenetics and other technologies are now available to help us live longer, healthier lives. And as that became apparent to me, its opportunity was so much larger than even the enormous opportunities to digitize sales, service, and claims and all the other things that I was doing, that I decided if I don't found a business to go after this and give it everything I got, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And so I founded a company with the bold name of Human Life Expectancy, Inc. And our broad objective is truly to help as many people as possible live as long as possible, as soon as possible. And we go at that primarily by helping insurers and other companies and governments to implement epigenetic testing.
Walk us through how the business has actually evolved over the last near decade at this point in time. How have things shifted with the advancement of new technologies, as you mentioned? And what do we see as kind of what's coming down the pipe for future technologies or anything that you have on that side of things?
Sure. There have been dramatic changes over that period of time. First of all, the science has advanced considerably. The ability to predict what's called your biological age, which can be younger or older than your chronological age, and again, reveals kind of how well you're doing, has gotten better and better and better and better. There are more predictors of more types also that not only predict your biological age, but can predict which diseases you have had, which diseases you might currently have, and also, really importantly, all kinds of behaviors and those behaviors' impacts on your biological age. So, for example, diet, sleep, exercise. And we all know the basics, which is, get more sleep and eat less and exercise more, and you'll live longer. But now we can actually quantify which interventions work best for which groups of people, which types of diets, which types of exercise. And given that 3/4 of us die from cancer, heart disease, stroke, and other diseases which are clearly impacted by our behaviors, knowing which behaviors are best to combat them is extraordinarily important in helping us live longer. And by the way, it also helps insurance companies revolutionize their relationships from being a grim collector of premiums or a reluctant payer of claims. They can now say, hey, Sam, you want to live a long, healthy life. We want you to live a long, healthy life. And we're willing to help you and invest in you in doing that by having you take these tests and working with you to find the interventions that are going to be best specifically for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the main thing that happens is the science has advanced dramatically. I could go on about that, but there's also another equally astonishing thing, which is that the price of these epigenetic tests has gone down dramatically. When I first started, it was well over $1,000, probably $2,000 to do a single study. And at that price, it's hard to make that economical for an insurer. Well, since that time, and currently you can do the test for on the order of, let's call it $200 per test. And a study came out recently that showed that you can reduce those prices up to 100-fold while getting better, excuse me, while getting better, more robust scientific answers. It's a great study called TimeSeek, done by a PhD at Harvard called Jesse Paganek and others. And I've got videos out on that too. So again, the big thing is huge opportunity to help individuals and insurers. That's gone way up. And the price has gone way, way down. And again, this TimeSeek study was able to do these tests in bulk for on the order of $1.50 in processing costs. So you put those things together, exponential need, 3/4 of people dying from diseases that are a function of interventions and medical and behavioral interventions, and tests that can tell you which interventions are going to be best for you, the price going down and down all the time. It's absolutely inevitable that epigenetic testing is going to be a big part of healthcare in general, and specifically life and health insurance.
For the layman, what's one misconception about the world of epigenetics that most people just haven't come to grasp fully at this point in time?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest one is that epigenetics is not genetics. And they could certainly be forgiven for making that mistake because the name makes it sound like, well, it's got to be the same thing, right? No, 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 no. They are very different in ways that are very consequential. In short, your genetics is your genetic code. It's the same in every cell of your body and stays the same throughout your entire life, right? And so people guard this code quite properly, very closely. Epigenetics is fundamentally different. Epigenetics is a set of switches that sit on the top of your genome. So that's why you get the name epigenome, like your skin is your epidermis, right? The epigenome is the surface of the genome. And on the surface, there are switches that act to turn on, turn off, accentuate, and mute the underlying genetic code. So why am I telling you this? Well, it turns out what matters is that not what genes you have, but what genes get expressed. And epigenetics determine which genes get expressed. And unlike the genes themselves, that changes dramatically based on your age, based on your behaviors. So for example, I don't smoke, but if I did smoke, something like this would happen. So I smoke, and my body would basically say, what the heck did you just do to me? And it goes up and down the 3 billion sites on my genome, turns on a whole bunch of genes and turns off a whole bunch of genes to help me to better cope with the reality that I now smoke. But it also leaves a record in the epigenome that you smoke. So you can tell what behaviors have been in smoking, in alcohol consumption, in exercise, in diet. It really is an astonishing time. I mean, I liken it to, right after the telescope was discovered, centuries ago, people could suddenly see billions of things that they could never see before that were fundamental to nature. It would be shocking if you couldn't discover something important with that, right? Well, that's exactly what we have here. I mean, we just gained the ability to sequence the genome in 2003, and the epigenome really didn't start to be studied in a serious way until about 2007 or 8. And so this is a very new science, and we're just starting to look at this stuff. And the things we found so far are just blowing our minds. Not only can you find biological age, but again, you can predict a whole range of behaviors and diseases. So again, the main thing that people misunderstand is epigenetics is fundamentally different than genetics. And because it changes with time and behaviors, it's really no different than many other tests that people take, like a smoking test or an alcohol test or a test for a various disease that changes day by day, hour by hour. And so the level of security that people put, or the need for privacy on it is relatively less than it is for genetic information. That being said, we do absolutely everything to make sure that our security and rigor in our analysis is every bit as much as it would be were it full genetic analysis.
I want to get some more clarity on like the business side of things as well. What process do you go through, or what channels do you notice for client acquisition have performed best for you?
Yeah. Um, for me specifically, again, I was an executive and a top consultant for, major consultancies to insurance companies around the globe. So the obvious, easiest channel for me is to just open up my book of business in the past and say, hey, I got an idea for you. We worked together on these things in the past. You really got to see this. And so honestly, it's kind of word of mouth and relationships have been my major way of doing it. That being said, we've also done a lot kind of on the public side. I'm pretty sure you're aware that I host the Human Life Expectancy channel on YouTube, and we post a whole bunch of videos there. And I'm actually kind of proud. I mean, we've got, I think it is about 35,000 subscribers right now. And for a small esoteric topic like epigenetics, I'm actually kind of proud we're at that level. So again, we're not going to put any of the rock stars at risk anytime soon. But that is another channel that's been helpful for us.
Sure. And what would you say is the current bottleneck of the business? Is it around like the lead generation side of things, the sales process, fulfillment, like a time component or capacity? What would you say is the current bottleneck?
The current bottleneck is courage. I just got to put it that way. It's courage. Insurers tend to be a risk-averse group of people. I mean,
Hmm.
that's where they came from, right? And so while they absolutely see the potential to revolutionize their business, they also want to be, I'll say, double dog sure that everything is going to be pure as snow, and that the scientific validity is there, and that their customers will get a very valuable experience out of it. And so, for that reason, what we're doing now is pilots with a range of them so that they can prove to themselves, as they should, that these tests have merit and that their policyholders will benefit dramatically from them, and also to quantify the specific amount of benefits that they can get through using these tests in various ways. And
Hmm.
I've written a book about that called Revolutionizing Life and Health Insurance with Epigenetic Testing that is available on Amazon.
Walk us through that sales cycle as well. It sounds like from you, your personal connections, and also obviously the distribution we have on YouTube and probably other channels as well. I suspect, I know I saw you on LinkedIn.
Yeah, we're definitely on LinkedIn. Yep.
Yeah. What would you say that process looks like? Like, is that a conversation they're having directly with you as far as setting up the pilot? And then from there, what does that process look like as well?
Yeah. So there is the initial outreach and contact. And again, the outreach is either me calling them up or sending them a note, or them contacting me from having seen us on YouTube. And then there's a long talk, and there's a whole range of initial positions that they're at. They're either really game about knowing what epigenetics is and are really excited to move forward right away, or others are, what the heck is this? And we have a long time to talk to them and their actuaries and all of the people in their organization, and importantly their marketing people, to help them understand the implications and get comfortable with the notion of moving forward. As I mentioned, moving forward usually looks like doing a pilot where we will do the tests on, let me choose a number, 1,000 of their customers, at no charge to those customers. And then we agree on a process, and we go through that process, and then we interpret the results. And then they look at those results and go, wow, we really did get what we thought we were. And now let's plan to roll this out more broadly, or let's do another type of pilot to learn yet more. But that's generally where we are. And so you asked me what the biggest barrier is. I do think it is courage. And we're working with insurers now to build up that courage as they want to, right? Because we have to do it. The reality is that these things are both scientifically valid and commercially well above threshold at this point, and they're only going to get more and more so going forward. So, we're very excited about that, and I think it's going to take some courage, though, for the first major insurers to roll this out in large lines of of life and health insurance.
Absolutely. And at that point, it's almost as if there's a revolution coming for those who do adapt to it because
Yep.
they're able to provide a better experience, a more quality service, and ultimately expand the lifespan of their clients, which obviously has results for both parties involved in that.
Absolutely. And by the way, while insurers may be reticent to be the first, they also definitely don't want to be the last. So what I think is going to happen here is, and we're working with several of them right now, large ones. Once the first one says, yeah, we're going to try this on, some of our large lines, I'm very sure that a lot of others are going to quickly say, okay, we
And
suddenly
we have
got the
to,
courage. We suddenly got the courage, and boom, let's go.
yes,
So,
the courage to be second in line.
right, exactly, exactly. And so,
Awesome.
again, we're in the midst of pilots now with several. The results are even better than we thought they would be, but again, what matters is not what we think about it, it's what they think about it. And we're happy to take the time that they want and do whatever they want to help them feel comfortable around the value of these tests for them and their policyholders.
Tom, what would you say the top priorities are looking through the end of 2025 for the business right now?
Yeah, it's really, as I've said, within insurers, it's to help them gain this courage. That is absolutely the top priority, and we're doing everything we can around that to help them prove to themselves what all this is. The reason I say prove to themselves is because it has absolutely been proven academically that epigenetics are scientifically sound, and we've got all the resources. And you may see on YouTube, I interview a lot of the top epigeneticists on the studies they're doing about this stuff. So the good news is the basic science is really quite robust at this point. The thing that's left to be proven is exactly how will customers react, and exactly how does this work within an insurance population, which is different than a study population. And again, that's what these pilots are meant to do. So that's what we're focusing on within the insurance space. We are also working in other spaces as well. We're working with pharmaceutical companies to test the efficacy of various drugs. We're working with nutraceutical companies, which is an extraordinarily large global business that have for decades made claims that some of their nutraceuticals can help you to live a longer, healthier life. Well, our tests allow them to kind of put up or shut up, right? Put a bunch of people on this test and we'll see, what its impact is on biological age. So, I mean, that you can just go on and on and on in terms of the potential applications of this. And so, while insurance is clearly our first and favored market, there are plenty of others that we are actively pursuing as well.
Mm. For you personally, I always ask because I'm curious, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received when it comes to the world of business and the world of entrepreneurship?
It really boils down to something like this. At the core, you need to know who you are and believe in what you're doing. Or another way of saying it is, you can't let the world tell you who you are. You have to tell the world who you are. And in this case, I made a decision about who I wanted to be. I wanted to be that guy who helped revolutionize insurance by helping many, many people to live longer, healthier lives. And that's something that has always made great sense, but it's been remarkably unachieved. Insurers have always, well, policyholders have always wanted to live longer and healthier lives, and insurance companies have always benefited financially when they do. And so it's just an odd mistake somehow that somehow insurers have mistakenly fallen into this position of being grim collectors of premiums or, reluctant payers of claims. It's an odd mistake. This isn't who they should be. They should be viscerally working with their policyholders to help them live longer, healthier lives. And I decided that's who I wanted to be and committed wholly to that. And what's wonderful about that is When you're clear about who you are and other people can see who you are, then they seek you out, and suddenly you're on your way. So I apologize if that's a little corny, but that is in fact my answer.
Just because it's corny doesn't mean it's not true.
Right.
Specifically for you, is that the same advice you would give to someone just starting out, or would you add anything to that advice for someone brand new on their journey as well?
Well, I mean, the the important thing, if you're going to do that, is be damn sure what you're committing to, right? Because if you commit to something that isn't scientifically robust, or commit to something that does not offer tremendous value to customers and businesses, then you're going to be in deep trouble, right? So, and again, the benefit I had was I came from a position of leading innovation for Allstate insurance for many years, and technology strategy for them as an executive, as well as on the consulting side, working with myriad new technologies to help insurance revolutionize itself. And that context allowed me to recognize when this came along, this is something that is different than and better than anything I've ever seen. And so if you're going to commit to something like that, you better make sure it's the right thing. Fortunately, my background allowed me to know that quite well.
Tom, I want to thank you for joining us here today. This has been an absolute pleasure for me personally, and I'm sure our listeners will love this as well. To all of our listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe to Founders Future wherever you listen to your favorite shows. You can also find more resources and insights at closers.io, where we're dedicated to helping businesses accelerate their sales through trained appointment setters and world-class marketing systems. And until then, keep climbing, and we'll see you on the next episode.